Namaste, everyone, and welcome. Today we'll share some insights on the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. Before we start, let's ask for divine blessing, shall we? To the Divine Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to all the spiritual elders, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. Personally, to my teacher, Master Chokoksui Mahaguji Meling, we humbly invoke for divine light, divine love, divine guidance, help, healing, and divine protection. Thank you for blessing us with a loving heart, an intelligent mind, and a powerful will that we may be of service to others. We thank you in full faith. So be it. All right. So, a lot of you have been joining us in doing the meditation Twin Hearts as taught to us by my teacher, Grandmaster Chokok Sui. It's a very, very powerful prayer. And this prayer of St. Francis actually is a technique or method of alchemy. So, to kind of put it in proper perspective, in the Middle Ages, they call the transformation of lead or base metals to gold as alchemy. Now, in spirituality, that transmutation is also present. However, uh, what happens is if you look at the aura of someone who's like stressed out, angry, upset, the aura is grayish, okay? Looks like lead. And it's interesting, if you're close to them for a while, you feel heavy. So there's that heavy feeling, heavy sensation, very similar to lead. Now, if you look at images of saints, paintings or uh, drawings of saints, you oftentimes see them in gold. You go to temples like Buddhist temple, you see golden Buddha. You go to a Hindu temple, you see golden Krishna, golden Shiva, yeah. And you go to Roman Catholic churches, oftentimes you see golden images of saints. Now, so the question is, why is this relevant to what we're talking about? See, what people don't realize, the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi is actually a prayer of inner transformation. And you can transform low emotions, lower thoughts, anger, resentment, and things like that into peace, love, mercy, and compassion. It's actually an alchemical process. Now, this alchemical process, we use the word transmutation. All right. Now, we oftentimes ask people, what's the difference between transformation and transmutation? Transformation just simply means transforming one state to another. You can have someone who is angry transform into somebody happy, yes? But you can also have somebody who's happy transform into somebody angry and very negative. Transmutation, on the other hand, you never say, oh, let me transmute happiness into anger. You don't say, you say, let me transmute anger to happiness and love. So transmutation goes from low vibration to high vibration. Now, there lies the secret. So if I read to you the first paragraph of prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi, it says, Lord, make me an instrument or channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith, despair, hope, darkness, light, sadness, joy. So if you look at it, basically you're taking something like hatred, changing it into love, right? Transmuting upwards. Injury, right? Being hurt into forgiveness and pardon. Doubt, faith, darkness, light, sadness, joy. So it's a way to transform and transmute these lower negative emotions. That's one reason why it is the prayer we use in Meditation Twin Hearts. Because in Meditation Twin Hearts, as you bless the earth with your heart, your crown, you do this deep meditation, it transforms all these negative emotions within you to positive emotions and uplift your spirit. All right. So what we're going to do in this short talk and meditation after is to just go to the different lines and kind of give a deeper meaning to it. All right. So that when we do it, we're not just doing it mechanically, like blah, 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 so on, right? There's a deeper meaning and you really feel it. And the transformation will go deeper into the fiber of your being. All right. So first sentence, Lord, make me a channel or an instrument of your peace. Now, when you say a channel or an instrument, it implies that the energy is passing through, right? So as this energy passes through us, Lord, make me a channel, an instrument. So as that energy or that instruction, right, flows through us, two things happen. Number one, as that energy flows through us, it affects us. And number two, as more energy flows through us, guess what? It also widens our channels. Make sense? So if I have a pipe, and then assuming that pipe is flexible, if I run low volume, low pressure water, it just kind of flows through it, right? If I run high pressure water and high volume of water, what happens if there's any gunk, any kind of blockages or any type of obstruction? That high pressure and high volume will push it out. So it has cleansing effect, right? Number two, as that water is flowing through, it will start to actually be part of the pipe. And there lies the secret. So, Lord God, make me a channel, make me an instrument of your peace. So as that energy flows through us, it actually transforms us. A lot of people don't realize that, okay, I'm giving this energy to you, but in order to give it to you, it has to pass through me. Now, on the negative side of that, the Lord Buddha said what? Somebody who's angry, right, who's going to insult someone, is just like holding coal and waiting to throw at someone. You're holding hot coal, you get burned first before you throw it to someone. Make sense? Like Master Cho used to say, you cannot dirty other people without first dirtying yourself. And the opposite is also true. When you love someone, that love has to pass through you, it has to be part of you. So, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. So, in order to have the ability to give peace to others, peace has to go through you first. Yes? All right. So, that's the first part. Number 2, where there is hatred, let me sow love. Just want to add something here. In a lot of deep spiritual teachings, we're always taught not to use the word H-A-T-E. You say, well, it's just a word. But if you're sensitive, just saying that word, it has a heavy feeling. Because energetically, it really blocks and clouds the aura and your energy centers. So I remember one of the great teachers, Holy Master Dwal Kul, who wrote through Alice Bailey, said, the word hate should not come out of any spiritual practitioner's mouth. Because it dirties the soul so much that it drags you down. All right? So we have to think of ways. Instead of using that word, you say, I strongly dislike this. Or this situation here, I really very much like to push away. Or whatever word you can find out that doesn't use the word H-A-T-E. Because that word literally blocks your chakras, and you say it enough times, it eats you up. All right? Now, for some of you who are new, in Arhatic Yoga, in Kriya Shakti, and the other higher classes, we talk about a little bit on what is the effect when you use that word and let it just consume you. So when a person's angry, when they're angry enough, at some point, that anger towards someone becomes hatred. And if they keep going, that hatred gets deeper and deeper into the system. Now they want to get even, right? When they get even, then it consumes their mind, their emotions. They cannot think clearly, so they become vicious. They become malicious. You see what I'm saying? It all starts from anger that you do not dissipate. At some point, that anger turns into that H-A-T-E word, and it just keeps getting worse. So the key here is to get rid of it ASAP, immediately, and try to protect yourself from using the word so it does not infect your consciousness. Now, I know what you guys are saying. It's just a word. The way my teacher explained it, his message said, look, if you cannot even remember your spiritual essence, the teaching, you cannot remember who you really are and what you stand for, what you need to do when things are quiet, when there's no pressure, no stress, no crisis, how are you going to remember to be kind, to be loving when somebody's right there hurting you? Make sense? How are you going to maintain your spiritual connection when pressure and crisis is all around you? So we strive our best to practice our spiritual development, practice our spiritual techniques as often as we can to remind us of who we are and how this spirituality is actually part of our inner being. All right? Now, we keep going. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. The key word here is sow. Yeah? We plant. So whenever somebody's angry, you plant loving energy. You see, it's something like this. Have you heard the saying, an eye for an eye, right? Trying to get even, fight fire with fire. That's ridiculous. You just build a bigger fire. You fight fire with water. So basically what you're trying to do is you don't go in like that. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Let me plant love to let it transform that anger, that hatred into love. Where there's injury, let me sow pardon and forgiveness. Now, a lot of you have joined us for our talk on forgiveness and practices. Let me just talk about this part on how this forgiveness plays into our spiritual development. Now, the way my teacher explained it to me is something like this. Everybody makes mistakes, right? Every soul in learning and growing make mistakes. Now, if you don't make mistakes, you're watching the wrong video. You should not be watching this anymore because you know everything. This is beyond you. All of us make mistakes. Now, the key here is something like this. The way graphically my teacher explains says, okay, if you raise your hand, it said inner forgiveness for all, outer forgiveness for most, not all. That's a direct quote. When you say inner forgiveness means spiritually we are all growing. Whatever the offense is, spiritually, I forgive you. You get the idea? You know, you curse me, you say this and that. Okay, spiritually, I know if I'm in those circumstances, I could make that same mistake or even worse. So spiritually, I forgive you. You are a soul that's growing. Your soul doesn't know any better. So spiritually, I forgive you. Externally, you might not show it. So the example we always say is like, okay, you forgive someone internally. You're not holding any grudges. But externally, you might have to call the police. You might have to get a restraining order. You might have to sue them. So internally, you're saying, I forgive you because everybody's growing. But externally, to maintain order and prevent you from causing more harm to me or anyone else, I have to set certain boundaries. That is balancing inner forgiveness and outer forgiveness. So a more mature way of understanding forgiveness is, I forgive you because we are all interconnected. If I make a mistake, I like also to be forgiven. In the bigger scheme of things, I'm learning my lesson. You must be also learning your lesson. So spiritually, namaste, I forgive you. Spiritually, I let the matter pass. Externally, I might have to fake it and say, oh, I'm really upset. Just like if you have children, what do? If they make a mistake, you still have to ground them. You have to reprimand them, right? So they learn the lesson. You don't enjoy doing it. In fact, you hope you didn't have to do it, but you have to do it so that they don't grow up, without discipline and become spoiled brats. So when you talk about where there's injury, let me show forgiveness and pardon. In other words, whenever we are hurt, we want to ask for forgiveness. When somebody gets hurt or somebody's hurting us, we also want to forgive them. Okay? Next one, where there's doubt, let me sow faith, where there's despair, let me sow hope. Now, the big part of these two verses, the way it was explained to me by my teacher is, there's suffering in life, okay? People who've lost their job, people who are sick, people who are going through relationship issues, people who are spiritually lonely. There is suffering. So how do we help these people out? You can physically be with them, help them, counsel them, but our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions also play a big role, because as twins send out these signals and these energies, it affects us, number one, and number two, it affects them, obviously, right? So where there's doubt, they doubt what their future is going to be like. Things are very difficult. They have doubt. They have despair. We want to bless them with hope and with faith that things will get better, right? It's interesting. If you think back when things are difficult for us, all of us have gone through difficult times, right? And in times of difficulty, you say, if someone were just here to help me out, I'd be so grateful. And sometimes you notice, you're not feeling good, you're feeling upset, angry, in despair, and somehow you watch a TV show, you talk to a friend, one sentence changed everything, change your outlook, right? So just imagine, as you fill yourself with this energy of love and compassion and good wishes, blessing someone with hope and faith, and you radiate it to someone who needs it, right? They might not consciously know about it, that you're doing something, but they start feeling better, right? And then, of course, you physicalize it by talking to them and counseling them, helping them out. Say, hey, it's not as bad. I've been through it. Here's what you do. It gives them hope and gives them faith. Faith allows them to say, I can keep going. There's something good to this. And it allows them to spiritually connect. All right? So, where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon and forgiveness. Doubt, faith, despair, hope. All right? Where there's darkness, let me sow light. Now, this part about darkness and light is quite deep. So, if it's okay with you, let's dive a little deeper on this thing. What is darkness? If you think about it, all of us studied science. There's no such thing as pure darkness. If you have two rooms, one is darker than the other, the dark room has less light than the less dark one. So that's physical light. What it's talking about here is spiritual light. when a person is affected by their lower nature, their lower chakras, affected, consumed by greed, by sexual desire, by thirst for power, the need to be wanted, that just me, I type of deal. Those become so strong. What happens? There's a lack of spiritual light, because spiritual light comes from above through the upper chakras coming down. So if we allow, I'm saying we because all of us mess up on this one. If we allow the lower nature, which is the lower tendencies of the lower chakras, to rule our life, there is less spiritual light coming into our lives, right? So when we are governed by these lower chakras and these lower tendencies, we are technically in a darker space than someone who is filled with spiritual light, where the spirit, the soul, the higher beings, God, whoever they feel is a spiritual guide or teacher, is governing their life, right? So a person who is in darkness is literally lacking in the spiritual light. So because of this lack of spiritual light, they are in darkness. They're ignorant of what they should be doing, either temporarily or permanently. They didn't know. So they continue to do dumb things, make mistakes. And these dumb mistakes, stupid mistakes that we do, is what in many traditions they call sin, right? The sin of this, the sin of that. But in reality, in deeper spiritual teaching, sin is the ignorance of our true nature, that we should love, we should forgive, we should help, we should be honest, we should be loving, gentle, and so on and so on. So when you pray, where there is darkness, let me show light. Essentially what we're saying, may all those who are in darkness of who they really are, a being of light, connected to the brilliant light, which we call God, the all-pervading light, which is God, right? Let me sow lots of light. May brilliant light flow through you. May spiritual realization be yours. And that's why I find beautiful, because people keep saying, oh, this person is enlightened, that person is enlightened, this person is illuminated. They throw these words left and right, but you ask them what it is, you go, I don't know, they know more. But in reality, in the deepest sense, you and I are a being of light. The soul is spiritual energy, right? With consciousness and intelligence. Not the same energy as what Einstein says E is equal to mc squared, because that has m, that has mass. The soul is pure energy with absolutely no mass. The closest thing to that is light. So when we experience ourselves as that being of light, that spiritual light that incarnated, took on flesh, like in Spanish you have the word carne, which is flesh or meat. The soul took on flesh or meat or a shell in order to learn lessons in the lower worlds. We oftentimes forget that we're a being of light. But as we keep remembering that we're a being of light, we become illuminated. That illumination or enlightenment is simply the realization that we're a being of light. Now, the word realization, obviously the main word is real. So this knowingness that we are a being of light, that we're here on a journey to learn lessons, becomes real. So real that it affects our minds, our emotions, thoughts, and our everyday life. That's why it's called realization. Okay? And let's face it, let's look back. When we make a mistake, in hindsight, they say hindsight is 20/20, right? It's perfect vision. So in hindsight, we go, we shouldn't have done that. Think about it this way. If the high chakras are in control, the spiritual energy is coming down, and we see things clearly, everything in plain sight, full of light, most likely we would not have made that mistake, isn't it? So literally, what you call sin is the ignorance of our true being, right? So you want to wish, may every person be blessed with light. Whoever is in darkness, let me sow lots of light. May they be illuminated to their true nature, so they will treat other people right. How we doing? And last part, where there is sadness, let me sow joy. Now think about it. What you call happiness and joy, happiness is oftentimes connected to circumstances. I'm happy because that person treated me right. I'm not so happy because they didn't treat me right. Joy is just something that is within you, an experience that is not affected by circumstance. Happiness is easily affected, increase, decrease by the circumstances. Joy is something within you, right? Now, here's the interesting part of all. If we're able to convert any hatred within us and in others into love, if we're able to convert any type of injury or emotional pain into forgiveness and pardon within us or outside of us, if we're able to convert darkness into light, despair into hope, doubt into faith, if you hit all that together and it becomes part of us, because that energy keeps flowing through us. Any type of hatred within us is always converted to love, injury to pardon, doubt, faith, despair, hope, darkness, light. When that becomes our extended state, then we experience true joy. You see that? Don't you find that amazing that literally this prayer is not Catholic? People think it's Roman Catholic, although the word Catholic means universal. So if you try to understand, it is Catholic in the sense that it is universally prevalent, ubiquitous, or whatever that word that people use. Sorry, somebody ubiquitous, something like that. Prevalent, everywhere, right? So when that essence of love, pardon, faith, hope, and light is within us, then joy is within you, and anything that happens around cannot put out that light within you. Make sense? Now, the second stanza. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, for it is in giving that we receive, it is in parting that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Most of you know that part of the prayer. So let's kind of break it down. The first part, he said, O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. When you say Divine Master, St. Francis is praying to the Lord Jesus, right? Okay. Now, to take a little deeper, there's the historical Christ. 2,000 years ago, you read the New Testament, there's the historical Christ. That's one level of truth. Next, there's Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, oneness. All this is saying that there's this something that permeates all when a person reaches to that level of spiritual development or that level of consciousness. So, in order to understand it better, let's look at two verses or two sets of words. The first verse is, Christ died for the sins of the world, right? Most we heard about that. Now, may I refer you to the Buddhist tradition? In the Buddhist tradition, they have this term, Bodhisattva vow. So you've seen the great Bodhisattva Kuan Yin, the mother of compassion, right? So let me talk about the Bodhisattva vow first to make it a little easier for us to connect the two. In the Bodhisattva vow, and this is loosely paraphrased, I will not go into complete union with God, to nirvana, to heaven, until every last sentient being has gone ahead of me into heaven or experienced illumination. Now, you do realize the scope of that, right? You know what a amoeba or paramecium is? All of us studied in biology, right? One cell organism. Just imagine this great being will wait for that every last teeny tiny cell, one cell, to become an enlightened being or saint before this soul will enter into heaven. Okay, just to put things in proper perspective. Basically, you're saying that, in a ridiculous analogy is, I will not go into heaven until every being is enlightened. Do you know how long that's going to take? That's a long time, right? Now, in the Christian tradition, you say Christ died for the sins of the world. How many beings are there? Trillions and trillions, right? So the essence is the same. When you say Christ will save the world, save from what? Let's go back. From sin. What is this sin? What did we talk about earlier? Sin is the ignorance of our true self, that we are being of light, and this being of light is part of God. It is the ignorance of this that causes us to do stupid things. So just imagine, the Lord Jesus said, I come to, die for the world, for the sins of the world. In other words, he's saying, okay, I'm going to use myself as ransom. I will not go into heaven complete to be my Father until every soul has been saved. I died for all of you. I'm in exchange for you. So that means every criminal, every child, every whatever is born will have to reach a certain level of what? Salvation from the lower self. Remember? When you say saved, in the Christian tradition, I come from Christian background. We always say, okay, that Christ will save you. You will be saved. You ask the question, saved from what? Oh, saved from hell. Define hell. There's this guy with a pitchfork, and going to burn you. In deeper spiritual teachings, we create our own hell. When we give in to the tendencies of the lower chakras, the selfish needs and wants, and give in to it, we hurt other people. We hurt the environment. That is the sin we're talking about. So when the divine energy comes down, we learn to be compassionate, we learn to be loving, we intelligently use our time, our efforts, and resources to help the world. We are what? We are saved from our lower nature. So if you think about it, that principle of salvation and the principle of salvation bodhisattva vow is identical. So the Buddhist version of Christ is bodhisattva, unconditional sacrificial love. So now it makes sense, right? So when Saint Francis says, "O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, seek to understand, seek to be understood as to understand," right? In other words, because of the sacrificial nature of Christ, we want to put other people first. In one word, service. A lot of you have asked us, when you take pranic healing classes, right? Pranic healing classes wherever you are all over the world, you'll notice a very interesting pattern. When you come to class, we don't start healing ourselves first. We start explaining what pranic healing is, what is the energy, what is this, what are the techniques, and immediately you practice on each other. In other words, you practice on someone. You don't practice on yourself right away. You don't say, oh, let me do self-healing. You work on someone. Then after you know how to work on someone, then you're taught how to do self-healing. Okay? Our book, Your Hands Can Heal You. I remember when we first submitted it to be published by Simon Schuster, the editor, who is a well-known editor for a lot of, very successful spiritual authors, told us, hey, you got the manuscript wrong. How come you're teaching the principles and then teaching other people to heal others, and then the latter part of the book you talk about self-healing? He was going to reject it. And so we submitted it. We said, look, there's two reasons. One, it's easier to study and learn something when it's in a laboratory setting, where it's outside of you. Okay, energy is here, you clean it, you energize. It's not always easy because if it's on you, because you're involved in it too much. Yeah? First reason. Second reason, we told her, look, we've always been taught it is in giving that you receive. As we understand something and apply to helping others, there's this law of karma. What goes around comes around. As other people are blessed through us, we're also blessed. You know what she said? Approve. And so the second part of this has to do with the law of karma. Now, a lot of people don't realize this thing called law of karma is not an opinion of karma. Your opinion, my opinion, doesn't matter. It is what it is. And it's interesting. If you're a scientist, guess what? What is the third law of Newton? For every action, there's a reaction. So because of this law of karma, we start to understand that, the universe works in a cycle. All right? And as we put other people's first, it eventually comes back to us. That's why it says, we should not seek to be consoled, but to console others first. And we'll be taken care of. Because as the energy flows to help them, guess what? We get the energy first. That's one. Plus, by this, what goes around comes around, it also comes back. So you get double hit. What else do you want? Yeah? Seek to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. Now, it's hard to really go into this in more detail without explaining a little bit about the science behind it. So there's this thing called the law of gravity. All of us knows, right? Whatever you let go hits the ground. Now, how fast does it hit the ground? And if you have a big object, small object, If it's traveling at an angle, so on, so on. If the object is heavy, how much does it take to overcome gravity? All these things we call physics, correct? So there's a body of knowledge, a study, a science called physics that allows you to harness gravity. So that if I want to draw a straight line in the wall, I don't have a straight edge, I have a string, something heavy, I'll draw a straight line every single time. What else? You heard of astronauts, cosmonauts in outer space where their bone mass decreases because there's less gravity or no gravity, correct? On the opposite side, what happens? If you want to make your muscles stronger, your bones stronger, you actually utilize gravity. You use those weights as you lift it repeatedly at a certain angle. What happens? You have micro muscle tears. As they heal, your muscle gets stronger. The pressure on your bones, what happens to it? It causes, what do you call it? Osteogenesis. Big word, huh? That's what I heard. It's supposed to make your bones stronger and grow, and so on, so on. So you're not complaining about gravity. Say it doesn't exist. You actually say, hey, there's this thing called gravity. Let me use it. Correct? Same thing. You have this law of karma. It's already there. And it's shown over here how to use it. So the law of karma, the way my teacher explained it, is something like this. The law of karma is a spiritual technology to create and navigate your future. Create in a sense, whatever I want, I will use this law to get me there. Whatever area I don't want to get to, I'll use this law of karma so I don't get where I don't want to go to. Make sense? And the body of knowledge, in order to harness this law of karma, just like physics is to harness gravity, is what you call the golden rules. All right? You have in the Old Testament, remember? Thou shalt not do this. Don't. Everything's don't. Everything. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not use the name of God in vain. Thou shalt not this. Thou shalt not that. Thou shalt not kill. Remember? Basically, in the Old Testament, that part of the golden rule is the negative golden rule, which helps us avoid problems in life. Whatever you don't want, don't plant it. Because there's this thing, it's a law, I didn't make it up, it's like a psychic boomerang law, boom, like that. So whatever throw out there, it'll come back to me eventually. So, okay, I don't want to hit me, let's not throw it out. That's to prevent problems, right? You notice the way my teacher explained, do you notice there are people in our lives where they're like problem magnets? Things that normally don't go wrong, they go wrong with them, right? Then you look at their life, they're constantly angry, they're always cursing people, they're always doing stupid things. It's like, come on, life couldn't be that difficult, but how come what normally bad happen to other people happens to you? Then you look at their life, it's because they keep planting the wrong seed, planting where, of course, it keeps hitting them. Make sense? So that's the negative golden rule. The positive golden rule says, well, whatever I throw out, it's gonna hit me back. Let me think, what do I want? Do I want people to love me? Okay, I'll be more loving. Or do I want to be prosperous? Okay, I'll give money to charity. You see, that part helps break up the wrong notion. Well, when I give, I should not expect anything back because it's bad. Why should it bad when you're just following the law? Make sense? Yeah, but I've been brought up, no, don't expect anything back. It's just like saying, I'll keep exhaling, but I'm not going to expect any inhalation. Try that for a size. You get the idea? The law is already there. And if you think about it, when you help someone, they benefit, you benefit, what's the problem? Right? Think about it. They benefit, you benefit, everybody's happy. When I don't hurt you, I don't get hurt, you're fine, I'm fine. No problem. See, the biggest thing most people say, yeah, but because if you have an ulterior motive, it's wrong. You hear about that? The ulterior motive is wrong? Having an ulterior motive is wrong? I don't want to hurt you because I don't want you to hurt me back. Isn't that an ulterior motive? How come you don't feel guilty about it? The key in getting rid of a lot of this emotional emotional weights as well as superstitions, if you will, is understanding and knowledge. The law of karma is there. We can either use it to improve our lives or by the ignorance of it, hurt us. So if you look at this verse, he says, let me not seek to be consoled, but to console others. Okay? Don't seek going me, I. If I take care of others, I'll be taken care of. I should not seek to be loved. All the attention, come on, me, I. All I have to do is plant the right seeds out there. There's this law of karma. Everything will take care of itself. For it is in giving that we receive. There you go. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. All right, let me stop there. Remember we talked about forgiveness earlier? It's something like this. All of us have gone through life where somebody's hurt us and we just hold on to this again. Oh, I'll never forget, I'll never forgive. Because this person has done so many bad things. That's fine under one condition. Make sure you never mess up. In other words, in order for us not to forgive, we better be perfect. I don't know about you, but that ain't happening soon. You get the idea? So, since we are all growing and evolving, and evolution, as Master always told us, evolution involves time, a certain process that happens, and lots of mistakes and screw-ups. Well, guess what? It's going to happen. It's part of learning. Hopefully, as the inner light comes in more, we make less mistakes and less serious mistakes. Because as the spiritual light comes in and controls our lower tendencies, controls our lower nature, the mistakes become less and less hurtful. You get the idea? But until that happens, we're going to mess up now and then. So here's the question. Do you want to be forgiven if you make a mistake? How many times have we said the wrong thing? We didn't really mean it, and we hurt someone. You go, oh, I'm really sorry. What if the person always tells you, nope, you'll never be forgiven? How would you feel? Well, guess what? That's what you're doing. If somebody hurts you and you vow never to forgive them, that's exactly what you're doing. That's why St. Francis says, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. I always tell this story. I was in Bhutan a few months ago, and I was in the company, one of the queens of Bhutan. She was very kind, and she assigned several of the royal guards to escort me when we go to certain holy places. And I talked to one of them. His name is Captain Sunam. If you're watching, Captain, thank you. And he told me something very interesting. He says, we have a lot of saints, yogis, pass through Bhutan. It's a sacred place. And after spending time talking to them, all of them said something very, very similar, like the same conclusion. How you gauge a person's spiritual development is their ability to forgive and move on. I said, really, why is that? All of them pretty much in not the same way, not the same words, but pretty much the same essence. We cannot control what other people do to us, right? We cannot control the circumstances that happen to us, but we can control our response to them. So the ability to forgive is actually one of the ways you know if a person has evolved. The ability to forgive and move on. And let the matter pass and move on. No wonder, he says, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And the last part, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Now, when you say death, it could mean many things. Death could be the death of the physical body, so the spiritual self is now liberated, right, to go to the higher worlds. That's one way to say death. Another way to experience death, to understand death, is death to the lower nature. In other words, the lower nature has no more grip on the real I. You get the idea? Like greed, desire, power, need for power, I, me, I. These things don't have a grip anymore. You control them instead. So, like a metaphor, analogy, you are dead to them already because you're filled with spirituality. That is what we try to achieve. So it is in dying that we're born to eternal life. Eternal life of happiness and joy. In other words, an eternity of knowingness who we really are, a being of light, and this being of light is part of God. So, as you can see, this prayer of St. Francis is quite deep, insightful, and powerful. I personally, the more I study this, the more it just blows my mind. It's like incredible. And here's the beautiful thing about it. Every time we do meditation Twin Hearts, as we bless the earth with the prayer of St. Francis, that energy flows through us. Waves and waves of purifying light start to convert every part of our being, where there's hatred, into love. Whenever we're holding grudges, into pardon and forgiveness. Whenever we have doubt, it's changed to faith, despair into hope, darkness into light, sadness into joy. And it is accelerated as we practice it in our daily life. When we forgive others, we console others, we give money to charity, we help them, um, we use this spiritual technology called the law of karma to help other people, and eventually it helps us. It's magnificent. So I hope that you were able to get a deeper meaning on this prayer of Francis of Assisi, and you'll join us when we do the meditation Twin Hearts, because doing this meditation uh, not only helps us, but as you can see, as it keeps passing through us, it will help transform the world. So thank you very much. We'll have links here for other meditations, especially the meditation Twin Hearts you can practice. So at least next time you're practicing it, you're not just, kind of just saying, oh, make me instrument of your peace, and so on and so on. I mean, there's a deeper meaning that, hey, I am making a change in others as well as myself. And since we're all connected, as humanity changes, as all beings of the earth change, there's a global transformation happening. All right, so let's give thanks. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Mother, thank you. To all the spiritual elders, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, spiritual helpers. Personally, to my teacher, Master Chokoksui Mahaguji Mailing, thank you for the blessings. To Saint Francis, thank you for this inspiration. We thank you all in full faith. So be it. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. I know it's a little lengthy, but I hope that we're able to extract some lessons that you can apply into your life. For me, it sure is a pleasure and an honor to be doing this, because I learn as I share, and it is in giving that you receive. Phew! All right. Anyway, please leave us some comments here, and as we always want to do, we want to make our video ministry, and for us it is a video ministry to touch as many souls as possible. So any of the donations you give will go towards moving this forward on a bigger scale. So may God and the high beings bless you for your generosity, and when you donate, then we'll just keep expanding this so we can touch more lives. Atma means soul. Namaste. You all take care, and as we always say, live super energized. Take care. Bye.